Oh boy, this one should be fun. I'm sure the comments section of this video will be nice and civil. What's going on, everyone? BouseFeenux here, and welcome to another research video. Today's topic comes from you guys. I had several people in the comments section on my last couple videos asking me about frame rates and why game developers cap them sometimes, and I did some digging and I actually found out a few things that I didn't already know that were pretty surprising. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at those things. Alrighty, as is customary for this type of video, let's define what we're actually talking about. Frames per second, or frame rate, also known as frame frequency, is the frequency rate at which an imaging device displays consecutive images called frames. The term applies equally to film and video cameras, computer graphics, and motion capture systems. Frame rate is usually expressed in frames per second, or FPS. So think about this like an old-timey film strip, right? Each little square on the strip is a frame. The amount of those little squares that pass through a projector light per second would be your frames per second. Now, let's apply this to modern technology. In digital media, frames per second is actually classified more as refresh rate and is measured in hertz. You can actually see this in most PC games where you can lock your game's FPS to your monitor's refresh rate. In both cases, analog and digital, these terms apply to how fast an image flickers. The faster the flicker, the smoother and more lifelike the animations you're seeing appear. Now, in the gaming world, higher frame rates are often more sought after. Usually, the higher the frame rate, the better the visual experience, right? The game runs smoother, it's more responsive, and is overall less jagged, and this is true up to a certain point. For example, in most studies, humans couldn't really perceive the difference in quality after 144 Hz. I know this is a whole other topic and people argue about this all the time, but maybe we could cover this in another video, so let's just go ahead and say that for the purposes of this, it's true for now. So now that we have a bit of background, let's move on to our actual question. If a game performs better at a higher frame rate, why limit it? Well, there are actually a lot of answers for this. The most obvious one is, of course, hardware limitations. Let's take the game we're playing now, for example. This is Rise of the Tomb Raider, and when it first came out, it was only released for the Xbox One. Now, as you can see, the game is graphically stunning. The footage you're seeing is from the PC version with the settings cranked all the way up. The Xbox version of this game looks almost exactly like this graphically, save for one huge difference: the frame rate. The Xbox One simply isn't equipped to handle this game at the level of detail above 30 frames per second, so in order to achieve this level of fidelity, the frame rate had to be locked. My point here is that the Xbox One wouldn't have had the same horsepower as a high-end PC, and in order to preserve the visual graphics quality, the frame rate had to be lowered. So that's the obvious answer to why a dev would lock a frame rate, but what are some of the other reasons? As it turns out, one of the biggest reasons to lock a frame rate is because in some games, certain animations, physics, and even gameplay mechanics are locked to frames in the game. For example, this is a clip of footage from a totalbiscuit video where he tries to play Need for Speed Rivals at 60 FPS instead of the locked 30 FPS. Increasing the frame rate actually increased the speed of the game, making it almost unplayable, and if you've got a trained eye, you can tell that the animations in the game are still in 30 frames a second. I highly recommend checking this video out because it's hilarious, so I'll link it in the description below. Another example of this is in Skyrim. The clip you're seeing here is when a player tried to ratchet the frame rate to over 60 frames per second. In this game, a lot of the physics are tied to the frame rate, and when you play outside of that cap, things tend to get a little bit on the wonky side, as you can see here. Our last argument for a frame rate cap is a little on the shaky side, admittedly, but in my research, I found it to be very prevalent, so I thought I should at least mention it. A lot of people, and even some industry professionals, claim that a frame rate cap is often instituted across all platforms because they essentially want players to have the exact same experience no matter what console they're playing on. We see this in a lot of AAA titles. Mafia 3, for example, is the most recent one wherein a game is released on PC at 30 frames per second instead of 60. Now, get your tinfoil hats on, because the general consensus for something like this is that the publishers want as much of the PC gaming pie as possible. It's theorized that if the experience is the same on every platform, there won't be much of a reason for people to buy PCs, and instead, they'll just opt into console gaming. Now, you can take this as you will, but there may be some truth to this. Regardless, I thought it was worth mentioning. But there you have it, guys. That's gonna do it for me today as we talk about why games have frame rate caps. Let me know what you thought about this video in the comments below, and let me know if I missed anything. Also, if you learned something new today, leave a like down below because it helps me out a lot. Additionally, get subscribed for more gaming content if you're new here so that you never miss a video. Until next time though, I'm BouseFeenux, I'll see you at the next video, and as always, thank you so much for watching.